A very good morning to our guests of honor, Professor Muhammad Yunus and Professor Wong Po Kam, Principal Mrs. Lim Lai Ching, Senior Deputy Principals Mr. Mag and Mrs. Chia, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the public lecture for youth, empowering youth through social business, with 2006 Nobel Peace Prize laureate and pioneer of microfinance, Professor Muhammad Yunus. I'm Lavanya, and together with Tian Chao, we are your MCs for today.
Today's youth grow up with the power of technology and are able to tap these new possibilities to solve some of the world's most pressing global social problems. During today's public lecture, Professor Muhammad Yunus will share his experiences about the potential of social business and discuss ways in which young people can involve themselves in the project of building a better world. Without further delay, may I now invite our principal, Mrs. Lim Lai Ching, to give us the opening address. Mrs. Lim, please.
A very good morning to all of you. Mine is just a very simple welcome because I think I just need to thank our very esteemed guest, Professor Yunus, for raising this occasion, and it's such an honor to have him here. I want to thank Professor Wong from the NUS Business School in terms of giving us this opportunity to hear from Professor Yunus. And for all our guests here, welcome to Raffles Institution. I want to confess that I have no part to play at all in the organization of this conference. One of our JC1 students, year 5 student, Samuel, came to me last year and said, you know, I met Professor Yunus and I've invited him to come and speak here at RI. Is that all right? It sounds like a done deal. And I said, of course it's all right. Because, you know, if I were to write to him, he's not going to say yes to me. But each time a student writes to some important guest, they usually say yes to the student because you young people have got a soft, enduring power that I don't have. You are able to do a lot of things. So really, the theme today speaks for itself. Actually, you do have the power. You may not realize it. And I hope later on, when Professor Yunus comes to speak to you, you will be inspired to discover that power within you to do one little thing that will change the world in a big way. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Mrs. Lim. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce our guest of honor, Professor Muhammad Yunus. Professor Muhammad Yunus has been an extraordinary entrepreneur since he turned 15. He studied economics at the Vanderbilt University, USA, and received his PhD in economics in 1970. In 1976, he started the Grameen Bank project, which was transformed into a formal bank in 1983, and founded another 50 companies, which are driven by a high level of social awareness. The Nobel Peace Prize in 2006 was awarded jointly to Professor Yunus and the Grameen Bank for their efforts to create economic and social development from below. The Grameen Bank is among the most noted social businesses globally. Professor Yunus, please.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, good morning. Well, I'm delighted to be here, and it's a wonderful occasion to meet students from school. I get very excited when I get a chance to talk to students of your age, because that reminds me of my time in school. Sometimes it was not very pleasant, always worrying about your teachers, your exams, and kind of always worrying when are you going to get through all these things and become impatient. And one exciting part of my time in high school was scouting. And that's what the 15-year-old comes about. I got a chance to go to Jamboree, Boy Scout Jamboree. I don't know if you're familiar with Jamborees. If you're Boy Scouts, you can participate in a gathering of all the Boy Scouts. That's known as Jamborees. So I was selected to participate in the 8th World Jamboree, held in Niagara on the lake in Canada. So for a young 15-year-old to get the chance to go all the way to Canada, it was a very exciting moment. It's not easy for a Bangladeshi young boy to go outside of Bangladesh and see the world. So that was the most memorable part of my school days. And I went to Canada. That's less significant now. Important thing that we flew to all this distance. So riding the plane such a distance, that was the most flying for all this distance, the exciting part of it. And then meeting all those young people. And then from Canada came to the USA. Another exciting thing, since we didn't have much money to fly back again, what we did, we took the ship, a luxury ship. So crossed the Atlantic in a luxury ship. So that was fun too. It took 15 days from New York to Southampton. So we had all the fun in the ship because we are very popular in the ship because we are all young people. We had 27 of us representing Pakistan. So we had all the fun in the ship and then came to Southampton. And then what we did in order to enhance our enjoyment of traveling, and instead of flying back to Pakistan, at that time we were Pakistan, what we did, all the money that we had to spend on buying tickets, we used it in buying 3 microbuses, Volkswagen microbuses. We went to Germany, went to the Volkswagen factory, bought 3 microbuses, and then drove all these 27 young people all the way back to Pakistan by driving these microbuses all through Europe. How much time did we take to do that? Nearly 6 months. So you see how much fun we got. Wherever we wanted to go, we just looked at the map. Let's go there. So we kind of traveled, stopped everywhere. And it was easy as a Boy Scout. You put up your tent and live there and be with the Boy Scouts in that country, in that city, in that little place. And we are always welcome guests as a Boy Scout. And we are in no hurry to go back. Because if you go back to school. Who wants to go back to school? So we had tremendous enjoyment for ourselves. And not every day of those 6 months was very enjoyable. Some of them are very traumatic experience we had. This is the post-war time. This is 1955, way before you were born. And what I did, every day I tried to keep a journal, notes, what happened today. At that time I didn't pay much attention to it, so it kind of filled up pages and pages of my notebook. And I forgot all about it. Only about 3 years back, one of my brothers, searching through all my old belongings, found this notebook and brought it to me. I said, this is something I wrote. I forgot all about it. So I read through it, and I remember every little thing that I did at that time. And everybody said, why don't you publish it? So now it's published as a book, untouched as it is done, and very harsh comments about countries, about people, about politics. And I was surprised that I was even looking at their politics and all the troubles in the post-war Europe. Now this book is being translated in several languages. I don't know how young people will respond to that, looking at a 15-year-old kid writing the notes about various countries and the trouble that you go through in various countries and the economic problems those countries have. So that brings me back to the 15-year-old days. But then I think I should ask this question, or I should mention this. Every young person wants to be something in future, grow up with an idea that this is what I want to be. And I'm sure you do the same thing, and I did the same. And I was thinking maybe I'll be a policeman. That's what my first ambition, I wanted to be a policeman. Because it's so impressive to look at those policemen, yeah. So I thought that's the most powerful person one can get. So that was, and you go through policemen, firemen, and those kind of things. And the pilot, because he's flying on the high, so you want to be a pilot. So lots of different ambitions you go through, that this is what you want to be as you grow up. And I'm sure you have that thing, but do you really become what you wanted to be? In my case, it didn't happen. I wanted to be all those things, and I want to be, finally, after I didn't finish my school, high school, universities, everything, and I wanted to be a teacher. That's what I thought I will enjoy, being a teacher. But I became a teacher, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't stay long in that. Something pushed me out of it. And you start doing things which you never thought about. Never for a second it crossed your mind. But that's what you become. That's a reality of life. That's some circumstances go and kind of prompts you, pushes you, and you become something else. Not out of the force of the circumstances, but something that you enjoy more. That's good luck if you can do that, even if it is not something that you are looking forward to do that. And it happened to me, just to give example, I never thought I would become ever a banker. That's the last part I ever thought. In the wildest dream, I never thought I'll be a banker. But now I'm introduced as a banker. And because I run a bank called Grameen Bank. And just to distinguish between the banker that people used to know or people are familiar with, banker, to show a little bit of distance between the banker who is a familiar person and the banker that I am. People sometimes call me banker to the poor. So this makes a little bit different. Why? Because banker is usually banker to the rich. So that distinguishes me a little bit, that I'm a banker to the poor. But why did I become somebody who's to be introduced as a banker or a banker to the poor? Is it something I planned? Again, you plan a lot, I'm sure. A lot of discussions take place among yourselves, how important planning is for everything. And again, in my case, I did things always which I never planned for. And waves of events push you into that direction. So every time it was something right next to you you want to do because you couldn't do otherwise. But you're not thinking what you do next time, because you're not worried, you're just worried about the one right in front of you. And if I look back, most of my work happened that way. I never had a long-term plan. I'm sure your teachers are getting very worried about what I'm saying. Why are you telling them that? Don't tell them that. But that's what happened to me, I have to admit. I was not planning anything, but I had to do things. So this is something also very strange in my case. So to give you exactly what happened, to give you a feel of what exactly happened, let me elaborate a little bit. I did my usual academic work. You have the biggest stamp on you, you got your PhD. So you think you finished all the things that you have to do through the academic world. And I wanted to be a teacher, so I became a teacher. And I enjoyed teaching. I loved it. So I was teaching in United States, in one of the universities there. And I enjoyed it, and I hope my students enjoyed it. Then something happened to Bangladesh. At that time, Bangladesh didn't exist, the time that I'm talking about. What were we at that time? Pakistan. If you remember a little bit of history of that country, when the British left from Indian subcontinent, like they left Singapore, so they left Indian subcontinent, the country called India was divided into two countries. One country remained to be India. The other part became Pakistan. And Pakistan has two different parts. One on the eastern side of India, another is the western side of India. One is known as East Pakistan, another known as West Pakistan, but it's one country. So that's the country that I was in. I was from East Pakistan. I'm from Chittagong, a seaport in East Pakistan. So then I got the Fulbright scholarship. I went to the USA, did my PhD, and started teaching right there. And something happened in the politics of in Pakistan. They started fighting between East Pakistan and West Pakistan. Actually, it was more West Pakistan trying to put their will on the people of East Pakistan. They rebelled, and they were attacked by the army, and thousands of people were killed. So immediately, East Pakistan declared itself that we are no longer part of Pakistan. We become a separate country. We call ourselves Bangladesh. And on that day, I was in the United States. In the moment we heard it on the radio and the television, immediately we announced ourselves, we are citizens of Bangladesh. That country didn't exist, but suddenly it happened, and we started doing that. So it's a long story, but by the end of this is 1971. At the end of this, 1971, in December 16, finally Bangladesh really became independent. It's separated out from Pakistan and is recognized as a separate country. So we are all delighted, excited that we have a beautiful country now for ourselves. We can do whatever we want. We don't have to worry about the politics of Pakistan. We never liked the politics of Pakistan. So in that moment, I resigned from my job in the United States, because now it's time to go back. Now that we have a separate country, we have to do a lot of work. So I came back to Bangladesh. And Bangladesh by that time is a devastated country. Everything is destroyed. The roads is gone, bridges gone, factories gone, houses gone, because the army did all this destruction to control East Pakistan. And now that the war is over, we have to start all over again. But the spirit was very high. All the people in Bangladesh were so joyous that we now can create our own country. And so was mine. So I came back immediately. And out of my own kind of preference to become a teacher, I looked for a university where I can teach. So I got a job in Chittagong University, where I'm from. It's a brand new university, beautiful university campus. So I started teaching there. And full of enthusiasm, although the whole thing is devastated. Nothing works anymore. As we are going through this euphoria, but soon reality started sinking in. Economy is shattered, people are People have no job, nothing is happening, roads are gone. By 1974, we had a terrible situation. We had a famine, people dying of hunger. And that creates such a kind of awful feeling that people dying, not because of any disease, just because they cannot find just a handful of food to eat. And it's a very slow process. Each day you're coming closer and closer to your death. It's not one, it's not 100, it's not 1,000. Hundreds of thousands of people dying of hunger. And you see them lying dead. And you teach brilliant theories of economics in your classroom. Your classroom didn't stop. So you feel awful inside. What good is this economic theory if it is not useful for people? How can you have all those elegant theories and talk about all the beautiful solutions that you can have inside your classroom, but then walk out of the classroom, you see people dying? So that was kind of giving me a terrible time. You feel absolutely rotten inside of you. A young teacher coming from the USA with bright ideas that, oh, we'll do this, we'll do this. Nothing happens. So finally I said, okay, I can't take it anymore, but I can't do anything else. You feel totally useless, completely. Then out of this desperation, suddenly I felt that, well, I'm a totally useless person. I can't do anything. But I must try to do something. So what idea that came, the Chittagong University campus was located in the middle of the villages. It's not urban kind of campus like the one that you have, right in the middle of the city. We were right in the middle of the villages. All around the campus are villages. So I said, why don't I go outside the campus and be in the village and be with the people? See if I can make myself useful to one person, even for a day. At least I'll feel that I am of some use, otherwise, what do I do? So at least I felt that this will give me a little bit of feeling of being of some use. So I started doing that. It's easy, just cross the border of the boundary and the campus, and then you be in the village and be around, talk to people. People look at you in a strange way. Who are you? Why are you here? I explain and get to know them. My ambition is to find one little thing that I can do for that day. And gradually started finding those little things I could do. It's within my capacity. I convinced myself I'm no good for doing big things. I cannot change the world. I cannot change my country. It's a terrible situation. I can't change the district where I am. I cannot change the village which is next door. It's too big for me. But I can definitely do something for one person. So I feel confident about that. And that's what I was trying to do. And I did that. Little things, very tiny things. But I enjoyed it. Then I started understanding the village. Before I have gone through all the hoops of economics step by step. I had no idea how people live, what their problems are. But now I came very close to people. Every day I meet them. Every day I see them. Then I started finding out many things about life in the village. And one thing which hit me hard was the loan sharking. I don't know if you are familiar with loan sharks. It's terrible things. Loan sharks. And so terrible you faced on a day-to-day basis the terrible things it does to people. So one idea that came to my mind, why don't I make a list of the people who are borrowing from the loan sharks? and see how many people in the village are borrowing from the loan sharks and how much. And who are the people who are lending? Who are these loan sharks? These are simple villages. They are not terrible people coming from outside. They are just same village, same people. I took a student of mine and went around in the village to help me to make this list. Within a week, I prepared a list. There are 42 people on that list who borrowed from the loan sharks. And the total loan all of them together took was $27. And I was shocked. That's such a small money. But you have to get into such much trouble for that. And I know loan sharking exists in the world for many, many hundreds of years. Nobody did a thing about it. It's such a complicated thing. And you feel numb by the enormity of the problem. Then suddenly came to my mind, the whole problem may be intricate, very difficult, but the one that I have in my hand is very simple. I can solve this problem. And the idea was a very simple one. Why don't I give this loan of $27 myself and save them the trouble of being exploited by the loan sharks? So immediately I gave this money, according to the list, to all those 42 people, so that they can return the money to the loan sharks, that I'm free now, you can't touch me anymore, I paid you back. And I did that, and I felt good that I had done something which probably will help them to get rid of those loan sharks on their back. Then I go back to the village again every day, as I do, but now I see a different kind of village than I knew before, because everybody looks at me with very strange eyes. And that strange eyes almost tells you, oh, you have done such a miracle. I see a feeling of sensation, that you have done something sensational. Nobody ever thought someone can do something like that. And I started feeling I gave only $27, that's nothing. Why people admire me so much? Because I've done that. Then another thought came to me as I see this reaction. If you can make so many people so happy with such a small amount of money, why shouldn't you do more of it? More people will be happy. And I still can give some money from my pocket. It's nothing. So I thought I should continue to do this because I'm trying to be useful. This is something they find it useful. Then I thought maybe instead of me giving the money, which I still can, why don't I go to the bank which is located in the campus? Ask them to lend the money to the people. Instead of villagers going to the loan sharks to get the money, they come to the bank to take the money. It's such a small amount of money, bank will never miss that kind of money. I said, that's a beautiful solution. You see how simple I was? I had no idea. So I went to the bank and talked to the bank manager with full enthusiasm that you should lend the money to the people in the village. It's only a few yards, not another world, just a few meters from the village. And the bank manager fell from the sky. He said, it's impossible, bank cannot lend money to the poor people. I said, why not? Because they are not creditworthy. I said, what is creditworthy? Meaning that they cannot take a loan and pay back. I said, how do you know? So the more he tried to convince me, the more stubborn I got. In the beginning, I had no idea. But now I got into an argument with him. But it is a never-ending argument. He keeps on talking, repeating the same thing. It cannot be done. It's impossible. Nobody ever heard of this. Finally, to get rid of me, he said, why don't you talk to my bosses up there in the system? They can tell you why bank cannot do it. I cannot convince you. You are a professor. I said, okay, I'll do that. So I started talking to all those big guys in the banking system, arguing with them. And everybody said, it cannot be done, it's impossible. The more they say impossible, more agitated I get, more arguments I bring. But it doesn't work. So it went on for months. I cannot open the door for the bank. Finally, I used something that I learned in these discussions. I said, why didn't you accept me as a guarantor? Guarantor means I take the responsibility of the loan, no matter who you lend it to, but I'm responsible. I'll sign the papers. So I offered myself as a guarantor and asked them to give the loan, that the person that I select, and I take the risk of the loan. If they don't pay back, I'll pay back. This time, I spoke the language of the bank. So they couldn't really throw me out of the window. They thought, maybe this is a good way to get rid of him. We agree and give loans, and they will never pay back. This guy will have to pay back. Then he will understand why we don't lend money. So they thought they got me into a trap. And they agreed. And that was the beginning of taking money from the bank and giving it to people and trying to figure out how to make it easy for people to pay back. So that's what thinking began, how make it simple. And came up with funny ideas. And it worked. The more it worked, more excited I got. And more money I want to give. I don't mind signing papers. After all, I'm not paying anything, so I'm just signing papers. If my signing paper can help people get money, why shouldn't I do that? I kept doing it. The more big it became, the more worried the bank became. Because they were absolutely 100% sure this will collapse. It's a matter of time. It's a beginner's luck that he got it done in the beginning, but now soon whole thing will collapse and nobody will pay back, and he has to pay back. He doesn't have that kind of money to pay back. Then I thought, if they're so reluctant, why don't I create a new bank? And then the idea of creating a new bank started going in my mind. So I drew up a kind of proposal for the central bank to give me the permission to set up a new bank. Bank for the poor. They said, are you crazy? We have enough of a trouble giving loans to the rich. They never pay back. In Bangladesh, that's the way it is. You give tons and tons of money to the rich people, and they don't bother to pay you back. Because they're so powerful, nobody can touch them. So we have enough of a trouble with the rich people. Now you want to bring poor people? Then I argued back. I said, if worse comes to worse, poor people will not pay back just like the rich people don't pay back. Why do you make a distinction between not paying back by the rich and not paying back by the poor? It's the same thing. They didn't buy that argument. So I had a hard time to persuade them. Luckily, finally, it was done. The whole thing in the village began in 1976. Now by 1983, I got the permission. So we created a new bank, called it Grameen Bank, or Village Bank. Grameen means village. A village bank, a rural bank. And that was the beginning. So we now expand ourselves, make it big, because now we have our own bank. Who cares now? We don't have to go to anybody to persuade. We are completely convinced. So this bank now spread all over Bangladesh. Right now, the bank has 8.3 million borrowers. Almost all of them are women. 97% are women. And how do we create that? And that's what I started telling you. I always bumped into things and start doing things which I know nothing about. Like I knew nothing about banking at all. But I got into a process, finally I had to create a bank, a whole new system, without knowing a thing. Now looking back, this is important. Looking back, I asked myself, if I were a banker, would it be helpful to create this bank? What is your answer? You don't want to take a risk. Would it be helpful if I were a banker to create this bank? To me, answer is no. If you knew about something, you fall into the logic of that system. So you are persuaded, you go into it. And if you want to do this, you cannot do this because this rule will not allow you. If you want to do, no, you cannot do that. So you are stuck with the same old logic. Since I was not a banker, I was not slave to that logic. I couldn't think of my own, which is drastically different their own logic. Like I was arguing with the bank manager. He says something, I say something else. He cannot see the point, I cannot see his point. Because he goes with his logic, I go with my logic. So it depends on what perspective you have. From that perspective, from vantage point, you see things in your way. If you're both standing on the same side, you see the same thing. And that's a very important issue. All the trouble that we have right now, or many times in the past, is because we got stuck with that logic. Any logic. Can't get out of that. So not knowing sometimes is a great blessing. Because if you know, you get stuck. You can't get out of it. If you don't know, you are free. You see things in your way. So that's what helped me to create that bank in my own way. And people ask me, how did you design all those things, all the rules, all the procedures in that bank? After all, when you create bank, you need a lot of ideas every step. You must be thinking a lot. You must be spending a lot of sleepless nights deciding how you do this tomorrow. I keep saying, are you kidding me? I'm a lazy guy. I don't think that way. I don't want to think so much. What I do whenever I needed this rule for my bank, I just look at the conventional banks, the banks which already exist. And then I learn how they do it. I look at it very carefully how they do it. Once I learn how they do it, I just go ahead and do the opposite. And it works. Because the whole logic is turned around. If you, just to give you some examples, conventional banks go to the rich. We decided to go to the poor. Conventional banks make it a rule, the richer you are, the more interested they are. They'll be chasing you if you are very, very rich. We reversed it. We said, poorer you are, more attractive you are. If you have absolutely nothing, you get the highest priority. See, we reverse the logic completely. Conventional banks try to find out how much wealth you already have, because they will give you a loan against what you already have. That's called collateral. So against the collateral you have. We reversed it. We said we are working for the poor people, so don't talk about collateral. Find out how little or nothing he or she has. If she has nothing, you go right ahead, and that's why you created the bank. So we reversed it. In a conventional bank that you see around you, they always require you to come to their office to do business. Wait in their lobby, wait in their office, or do the business, and so on. We reversed it. We made it our first principle. First principle was, or still is, people should not go to the bank. Bank should go to the people. Again, we reversed it. So all the 8.3 million borrowers we have in Bangladesh, in every single village of Bangladesh, there's not a single village left where we don't work. They, 8.3 million borrowers, they don't come to our office. We go to their houses. And our work is done in a weekly basis. Every week we have to come and show up and do the business at their doorstep. So within 1 week or 5 days, 5 working days, we physically meet all these 8.3 million borrowers at their doorstep. They don't have to leave their place. So again, we reverse that. Conventional banks are requiring the collateral. We don't require collateral. So if you require collateral, you need a lot of lawyers in your bank to look at your documents and make sure that you can handle it when you don't pay back. I can take over your property and so on. So you need lots of lawyers to check this. Bankers and lawyers work together. We created a bank where we don't have any lawyers at all because we don't have collateral, so who needs a lawyer? So we are the only bank in the world which is lawyer-free. So if you are becoming a lawyer, watch out. So this, again, I'm just showing how at that time I didn't realize that. Now looking back, you see, everything looks so different. Almost the mirror image, upside down image. And people say, how do you defy the rules of the normal bank? I said, why do you call them normal bank? I thought they're the abnormal bank. Because they do funny way. I thought a bank should be lending money to the people who don't have money. They made a strange thing. They give money to the people who already have a lot of money. Who needs it? I thought this is the other way, it's a better way. Bank lend money to people who don't have money so that they can start something with their money. So that's why I said, don't call them normal bank. If you want to call them abnormal bank. So anyway, so conventional banks are owned by rich people. If you are an owner of a bank, you must be rich. Otherwise, how can you own a bank? We reversed it too. We made the owners, borrowers of Grameen Bank as the owners of Grameen Bank. So this bank, Grameen Bank, is owned by all these 8.3 million borrowers. It's not owned by me, it's not owned by anybody else. So this is how it goes. And then, conventional banks are not only owned by rich people, it's owned by rich men. That's a tradition. We reverse that too. It's not only owned by poor people, it's owned by poor women, because 97% of our borrowers are women. So you see, reversing something suddenly becomes so much meaningful, so much important. So that's what Grameen Bank is all about. Today, Grameen Bank is in every single country in the world. This, not bank itself, the idea of that bank, and it became known as microcredit or microfinance. Now we run our branches in New York City, lending money to the people who are in a very low income or no income in New York City. And it works as good. We do exactly the same thing we do in Bangladesh, right in the heart of the New York City. It works beautifully. Same thing. We have not changed anything. People say, Bangladesh is different. It's a poor country, traditional country, Muslim country. USA is so different. I said, you can see the difference on the surface. I don't see it. I see people. People are people. People in Bangladesh, same as people in the USA, people same as anywhere else. I say, people are same because 98% or so, such overwhelming percentage among the people is about similarity among people. They're same. They get hungry, they want food, they want good place and place to learn, whatever, it's the same. Only 2% among the people is the difference. But we blow up the difference. We're always talking about the difference. We don't just say a word about the similarity. That's why it looks like everything is different. That's not. So anyway, we do that. So what I was telling, things that I didn't intend to do, I was pushed into doing things. And I did it, and I enjoyed doing that. And along the way, as I created the bank, I saw many other problems. Lending money is one problem. There are many other problems, because when you come close to the people, you see problems after problems. One of the problems I saw right away, I saw the children in those families, poor families. As it expanded, as more and more of these women started joining Grameen Bank, I noticed their children. It's a very strange thing. I never heard this kind of thing. I never understood this kind of thing. The children cannot see after sunset. They go blind. Very strange. I started talking to people. What happens? Why these children can't see after sunset? Why do they go blind? I talked to the doctors, I talked to the experts. They took it very casually. Oh, this is just a vitamin A deficiency. They lose their eyesight. It's called night blindness. So they become night blind. Vitamin A deficiency. I said, how do you do that? How do you cure that? It's also simple. If they have vitamin A, they will start seeing again. As if they have nothing to do, just a formula, that's all. That somebody has to do something about it. It doesn't occur. And I said, where do you get the vitamin A? He said, okay, you go to the market, buy the vitamin A tablets, and give it to them. Or, I said, I don't need vitamin A, but I have my eyesight. Yeah, because you are taking vitamin A through your vegetables. Vegetable A is, vegetable has the vitamin A, yeah. There are some vegetables which is bigger contribution in vitamin A, some less, but every vegetable will have that. Particularly colored vegetable will have more vitamin A. If they eat vegetable, they will not have this problem. I took it as my responsibility to say, why don't I bring vitamin A? Not to the tablet, by the vegetables. So I started selling vegetable seeds to encourage people to grow vegetable and feed their children with vegetables so that they can start eating vegetables. And people love these seeds. And Bangladesh soil is very fertile soil. As you sprinkle these seeds, you get beautiful fresh vegetables. They started liking it. In the process, as we grow, we became the largest seed seller in the country. All we did, we made a tiny packets, a penny packet, 1 penny each packet, some seeds in that. So that you can't say, I cannot afford it. You can afford it, you can spend a penny to buy it. We didn't give it free. And everybody loved it because the vegetable looks so beautiful. And over time, night blindness disappeared from Bangladesh. It didn't take much of an effort, just a system. I'm not a doctor, I didn't know anything, just an idea how to bring it to people. One after another, we started doing all this. The moment I see a problem, my habit is to come up with a business idea to solve that problem. Like I tried to solve the problem of seed or the vitamin A or the night blindness by started selling the seeds and encouraging to grow vegetables. So we created many such companies. That's why you mentioned 50 companies, more than 50 companies I have created. Each one focused on solving a problem. Bangladesh doesn't have much about electricity. 70% of the people of Bangladesh have no access to electricity. In the villages, it's all dark after sunset, kerosene lamps. I'm from the village, so I grew up with kerosene lamps. We had to study under kerosene lamps. until you leave your village, you don't see the electricity. And since the electricity is not coming anymore, we don't see any prospect that electricity will ever come to villages of Bangladesh. We thought, why don't we solve this problem? Why don't we bring solar energy? This is a good thing to do, because before the fossil fuel electricity comes, we can occupy this space with renewable energy. So that idea came, and we created a company called Grameen Shakti, or Grameen Energy, to bring solar energy in the villages. What we did, we started selling solar home systems with a panel, with a battery. So you have lights, you get electricity in your home. You produce electricity right there with the sunshine. In the beginning, people are so reluctant to even listen to that, because it's expensive, because they never heard of it. Maybe these are con men, they will take the money, you never get electricity. So it was such a tough time to sell 3 or 4 solar home systems in a month. And you get very frustrated. You cannot convince people this is a good thing to do. We made it very simple to buy it, but it still is very difficult. Now, 15 years later, we have come a long way. People now become familiar. People are buying solar panels, solar home systems. We are just about reaching 1 million solar home system in Bangladesh this month, or this year. By the middle of this year, we're very close to the 1 million solar home system. And we sell 1,000 solar home system every day. So people became familiar. So we created something to solve the problem of electricity so that people themselves can solve their own problem in a business way. So when I created all those companies, I was thinking about the problem solved, how to solve the problem. People tell me, you must be a very rich man, you own so many companies and so many big companies. I said, no, I'm not a rich man. I created all those companies, but I don't own a single share of any of those companies, because that was not my intention. Making money out of those companies was not my intention. My intention was to solve the problem. Then they look at me in a very strange way. Why do you have to create a company if you're not owning it, if you're not making money? Then I asked myself, yes, why do I do that? Why somebody has to create a company to solve a problem without benefiting personally? That kind of business doesn't exist in our textbooks. In our textbooks, it says you create a company to make money. Now you create a company not to make money. What is that? Is it a strange? Or it is some freak thing only for freak people? It's not normal. Then I realized it is normal. Simply we don't do it because our textbooks never tell us about it, so we don't know about it. I did it because I faced the problem, and I wanted to do something about it, so I did it. If everybody knew it, if you read it in your classroom, you say, I would like to do something like that too. Then I started giving a name to this class of business. I called them social business. That's what you just heard. So what is a social business? It's a non-dividend company. It doesn't give you any dividend. A non-dividend company to solve a social problem. If you find a problem, you design a business. So the business means it has to be sustainable. It has to pay for itself. But the intention is not for making money yourself, but to make it sustainable. And there are so many problems. We cannot address this problem within the business world because we are so busy making money in the business world. So what we do, what our theories tell us, if you want to do something for the people, You have to step outside the business world and become a philanthropist. Donate money. Solve those problems by charity. Charity is a good thing, everybody should do that. But charity has a limitation. And it's a built-in limitation. You cannot change that. The limitation is when you give the money to solve a problem, money goes and solves the problem, and money never comes back. So every time you want to solve the same problem, you need a fresh money to do that. So somebody has to keep on giving you money to do the same thing again. So there is no such endless money to keep on repeating this. But if you can convert this into a business idea, then if you give the money once, that money keeps on recycling and solving the problem again and again and again. And it becomes powerful. That's what the social business is all about. So we started creating those social business one after another. And then some big companies became interested in our idea of social business. They started coming to us. Can we do some social business? Of course you can do the social business. One such company was Danone. Danone is a yogurt company, French company. They came and they started asking, how do you do that? We said, well, let's try. Why don't we produce a yogurt, because you are such a good in making yogurt, but for a special problem solving in Bangladesh. Bangladeshi children mostly are malnourished. 46% of Bangladeshi children are malnourished. If you are malnourished, you grow very slow, or you get stunted. You are shorter than what you could be. If you are malnourished, your mental faculty doesn't grow. You're mentally stunted. You're slow in understanding. You're slow in recognizing. That's basically what happens if you're malnourished. If 46% of the children are malnourished, you imagine what happens to that nation. We said, why don't we address this? Why don't we put all the micronutrients which are missing in the children into this yogurt and make this yogurt very delicious? Children love it. Make it very cheap so that everybody can eat it. And once they eat it, they will get back their micronutrients. Danone liked it. We said this will be social business. You cannot take any dividend out of this company. You can take back the investment that you made. You can take back over time, but still you own the company. But nothing more than that. They loved it. So we created that company, Grameen Danone company. We sell yogurt. Children love it. And they are changing their health situation. So this is an example of social business in a partnership with another big company. Then I was invited by Adidas in Germany. Everybody is familiar with Adidas. And CEO, Dr. Heiner, he asked me, we want to do a social business. Where do we begin? How do we do that? I said, why don't we create a separate company than Adidas? We call it Grameen Adidas Company. And have a mission statement for the company. The mission statement is, nobody in the world should go without shoes. Nobody should be barefoot in this world. As a shoe company, it's our responsibility to make shoes affordable even to the poorest person. The CEO was shocked to hear that. He said, that's a big, ambitious mission. I said, Adidas is a big company. What is the problem? Why should you have a small ambition? He realized that he said something which is not good. He said, give me some time, let me discuss with my colleagues, see what they say. So I was given a big tour of their campus. It's a beautiful campus with all the kind of museums, all the shoes, all the athletes and so on. So you spend hours and hours looking through that. And by lunchtime, we got back again. CEO sat next to me, he asked me how cheap the shoes should be in order to be affordable to the poorest people. That's what my colleagues asked me to ask you. I said, maybe these shoes should be under €1. He again looks at me, he said, you're a very difficult man. I said, I'm not difficult, the situation is difficult. If you want to go to the poorest people, you're asking for €100, nobody will buy it, cannot afford it. You have to make it absolutely cheap. And I'm not talking about charity shoes that Adidas distributes free shoes. That doesn't work. I'm not saying that you charge €1 for a shoe which cost you €5. That's a charity shoe. I'm talking about creating a shoe which costs you less than €1 and sell it for €1. It's a big challenge for them. They again discussed among themselves. By the end of the day, they got together again. They announced that, yes, we are going to take this challenge. We'll make it happen. They worked for 2 years to find a way to do that. And finally, last year, they came up with that shoes and cost them under €1 and selling them under €1. So that's, again, a social business. They don't want to do it to make money. If you wanted to make money, you will never think about this. That's the problem. That's the logic of making money. If your mind is set in making money, you say, oh, I want to be helpful to the people, but at the same time I want to make money. You're stuck with the logic of making money. So you'll not think about shoes under €1. Danone has been working for many, many years all over the world. They sell tons and tons of yogurt every day all over the world, but never thought about the yogurt with micronutrients for the children to overcome malnutrition. The moment they got freed from the idea of profit making, suddenly the mind starts working in a completely different direction. So delinking from the profit idea opens up the door for yourself. People say, are you against profit making? I said, no, I'm not talking about against profit making. I'm saying there must be two kinds of business, not one kind of business. Today there's only one kind of business. As a result, we all became money chasers, because that's the only game in town. You chase money, so everybody chases money. Chasing money became our habit. We have no time to think about anything else. Chasing money became our intoxication. And sometimes it becomes an addiction. You don't know why you want to make money, but you still want to make money. Making money can be a means. But today, the way everything is designed, it tells you making money is a means, making money is an end. Why should making money be an end? What is the purpose of life after all? What do we do in this planet? What were we supposed to do? Just make money? We are like honeybees. All we do is just collect honey, and we don't know what to do with the honey. Somebody else eats it. There must be a purpose. As a human being, I'm a very creative person. Every one of human being is a very creative person. Every human being is packed with unlimited creative capacity. And what use we make of it? Just make money, leave behind a stack of money, don't know what to do with it? It doesn't make sense. So now I'm saying that making money is a means, using this money for social business is an end. Because that's what you wanted to do. You wanted to solve problems, you wanted to create a better world for everybody. Making money brings happiness. Of course, it brings happiness. You make money. That's the only happiness economic theory talks about. But there are other sources of happiness. Economic theory doesn't get involved with it. Making other people happy is also a happiness. But they don't talk about it. Human beings, as human beings, we are all selfish. Economic theory took the selfish part of us and built a whole theory of it. That's what the theory of business. You make money. Selfish. You satisfy your selfish ego. But they forgot that every human being, as a part of human being, we also are selfless people. We want to do things for others. It's a part of us. It's part of our DNA. But economic theory doesn't extend to that part. And that's the part I'm trying to bring out. I said, use both sides, selfish part and selfless part. Create businesses. As a young person in a classroom, you'll be, when you're speaking, learning about economics, you'll be learning that there are two kinds of business in the world. One, to make money for yourself. Another, to solve the problem of the world. So it's your choice. Today, there is no choice. All you can do is just make money. Or join a company who makes money for their shareholders. Am I a slave to work all my life to make shareholders happy? No. I want to do things, leave some signature on this planet that I was here. Where is my signature? And that's what social business brings out. So we created many of those social businesses. Now this is being discussed, whether this makes sense. I said, I'm not shutting down everything else. I said, do everything that you're doing. But here is a space which is missing. I'm trying to bring this option. If people like to do social businesses, they're welcome. If they're not interested in social business, I can't do anything about it. I'm giving them an option. I'm not saying this is good, this is bad, or anything else. I said, if you want to do that, you have the capacity to do that. And the last point I want to make is, as a young person, I was telling you that when I was 15, what I did. But when you are 15, or that age, 15, 20, and so on, when I was 15 to 20, there's a big difference. Your age, at that time you are the most powerful generation in the whole planet, in the whole history of human beings. You are the most powerful generation ever. Why? Are you smarter than us that we came in a previous generation? No, it's not the question of being smart or not smart. We are the same. But we didn't have the opportunity to unleash our capacity. You have. You are different than any other generation because suddenly this generation has all the connectivity, all the facility in the technology. When we used to write a letter to a friend, it was a longhand letter, very carefully crafted. Handwriting was a very important thing in our time. For you, probably you forgot about it. Nobody writes it anymore. And then stuff it in an envelope. Go to the post office, buy the stamp, put the stamps, and mail it in a real mailbox. Today, you don't know what is a mailbox. The only thing you know in the mailbox in your inbox and outbox. So that's the age we are coming from. We waited 3 months, 4 months before we got a reply. What an exciting thing to get a reply. You send messages, 1,000 messages per second, and get 1,000 replies per second too. So that's the speed, that's the facility. It's all costless. It doesn't cost you anybody anything. Everybody has a telephone in their pocket, all over the world. In our age, finding a telephone is a kind of a surprising thing that they have a telephone. We watch it from a distance. So this is the power you got. You learn things so much faster. You do things so much faster because technology allows it that. So if you're such a powerful generation, what use you want to make of your powers? That's the question. Are you going to use this power to make money for yourself? You should use your power to make money for yourself. But your power is so many times more than you need to make money. You have so much extra power. if you don't use this power, it will be wasted. It will not be known to you. You are not even aware of that power because you never tried to use it. The more you try to use that power, the more you become familiar with your capacity and the power. Your generation can change the whole world completely differently. And that's why I'm giving you such an elaborate way how we created Grameen Bank. Did the reverse. Maybe you start from there. You create your own world and do it absolutely the reverse way. All the problems that you see in this world will not be there if you start with your own logic. Don't take things as they are. If you take things as they are, you'll never change it. Defy it. Sit down with a blank piece of paper and design it yourself. This is the world that I want to live. This is the world I create. And you can do that. It's in your capacity. If you don't try, it will never happen. If you imagine your world, what kind of world you want, it will happen. You cannot be wrong in that. It's all question of imagination. Why don't we imagine a world where nobody would remain unemployed? You know, unemployment is a big problem in the whole world right now. It's a funny thing. Why should anybody be unemployed? Tell me. Is it the fault of the person? He or she is fully capable, able person with all the creativity, but cannot do anything because system has rejected. What is the system? Who built this system? How can a system punish me? Why don't we throw out that system and create another system where the word unemployment will be totally unknown to anybody? They wouldn't know what is unemployment. And I make a joke with people who press me on that. Can you do that, something like that? I said, why not? Look at the animals. Have you ever heard an unemployed animal? I have never heard it. If you have ever heard of unemployed animal, probably that animal belongs to a human being. Otherwise, normal animal will never be unemployed. How come we are so proud of all our knowledge, with our technology, with all our power? We are not as good as animals that we are coming from. Where did we lose all this, everything? We got stuck with the funny ideas, funny concepts. Throw them out. And create new concepts, new frameworks. And you can do that in your internet. You design that. First design it. This is the way we want. Once you start designing something for a particular purpose, then it will happen. This system was not built to create a system where there will be no unemployment, where there will be no poor. This system was built piece by piece. They're not talking as something objective. They thought, okay, I can do this. I can make my life. I'm okay now. Everybody's trying to be okay now. So we don't have a system. Start with a system. Start with objectives that nobody in our world would be unemployed. Nobody should be poor. Nobody should be on state subsidy. Why should be anybody on the state subsidy? We are capable people. We should be contributing to the world, not sitting there, somebody will be feeding me. Why should it happen? And all the rich countries are filled with people on subsidies, on welfare. And they pride themselves, what a beautiful society we got. We take care of everybody. People don't want to belong to a zoo that you have to feed them. People are enormous, full of enormous capacity. So don't take it away from them. You have no right to do that. So that's the challenge for the young people. Design it. Debate it. Have a dialogue among yourselves. What kind of world you want to create. Maybe nothing will happen, but it's fun to do that. We can do that and make it happen. If you don't imagine, it will never happen. And all our power will be wasted. Don't let it go waste. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Yunus. May I request that you remain on stage for our question and answer session. Professor Wong Po Kam from the School of Business at NUS and Director of the NUS Entrepreneurship Center, together with Samuel Ching, President of Raffles Entrepreneurs Network, will also be joining us for this session.
Professor Wong Po Kam is from the School of Business, NUS, as well as Director at the NUS Entrepreneurship Center. He has published in numerous international refereed journals and has also consulted widely for international agencies. An entrepreneur himself, Professor Wong co-founded 3 companies and is an active angel investor and board member of several high-tech startups in the Silicon Valley, Singapore, China, and Malaysia. We will now be moving on to the question and answer segment. Professor Yunus, Professor Wong, Samuel, please.
Thank you very much, Lavanya and Tian Zhao. Today, we are indeed very privileged to have Professor Yunus here with us today to share with us about social business, as well as about his fascinating life experiences. Professor Yunus, thank you very much for the inspiring and engaging sharing. So now in this question and answer session, we have Professor Yunus together with Professor Wong Po Kam to address any questions that you may have about social business or about advancing social good. If you have a question, please step up to the microphones located along the aisles to ask your question. Also, please state your name as well as the organization and institution that you are from before asking your question. Now, could we have the first question from the floor, please?
Good afternoon, Professor Yunus. I'd just like to thank you for a very inspiring speech. I'm Eugene from Raffles Institution. I just have a question for you. I was wondering, how did your experience in school affect your life in the later stages? For example, if you had stayed in school instead of going to Niagara Falls instead, would you have started the whole range of Grameen banks and companies? Thank you.
I don't know. It's a historical accidents took place. If I didn't come back to Bangladesh after liberation, could I have done it? I don't know. If there was no famine in the country, would I have done it? I don't know. So because that's the way history went, and each event led to something else. If I didn't go to the village next door, would I have done it? I don't know. Would I have done something different, better than what I do now? I don't know. So this is kind of a historical thing. It's something, I meet somebody here, suddenly that changed my life. Whether it would have happened if I had not come here, I don't know. This is how things happen. Something get clicked, and it creates another flow of events. So that way, it's very difficult to say. Definitely, I would say each event helped me to be myself. There are many infinite options, but finally you get to one option and proceed. And that one option leads to another set of infinite options, which are different from the options that you left behind. But each one proceeds in the same way.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, Professor. I'm Hui Hui, and I'm a member of the alumni of Raffles JC, and I'm currently studying occupational therapy in University of Sydney. My question is an extension of Eugene's question, actually. I was wondering if each of the speakers could actually share about an event or a person in your life that inspired in you the imagination and the creativity to want to solve these social problems. Thank you.
I guess so. I'm sure, again, it's a product of combination of many things, not one single person. And I reacted into things because I felt something strongly about and I wanted to do something. It's not because I followed somebody else's step. I was not following any step. I was in a kind of blank space. And I was trying to find in that blank space what I have to do. And most of the time I was not even thinking. I was just reacting to circumstances. And each one circumstance took me in one direction. So it's not one particular philosophy or particular ideal that I was trying to follow. I didn't see that way, yeah. Yeah, you want to ask some more questions?
I thought each of the speakers could share. It's okay then. I've got another question actually. You mentioned about how technology could actually help our generation to solve many problems. And as we all know, especially GP teachers here and students who study GP, technology is a double-edged sword. So I was wondering if you have any advice for our generation today, any risks that we can take note of, and yeah, what can we actually take advantage of as well? Thank you.
That's what I was trying to say, what the kind of possibilities that your generation has. And at the same time, I would say that all the children which are born now, say in 2012, when they come to your age, will that be as powerful as you, more powerful than you? And my guess would be they will be several times more powerful than you. Like you are 100 times more powerful than we were at your age. So at each generation it becomes more powerful, because what we see as a technology today is still the tip of the iceberg. Things keep changing so fast. Imagine in your own lifetime how many changes you saw. You still have the Walkman with you? Forgotten. It's a museum. You have to go to a museum to find a Walkman. Long playing records, you heard about that? No. It's all gone, just quick succession. Who knew a couple of years back there will be some telephone called iPhone? Do we know what will happen 2 years from now? No. That's the kind of speed the world is changing. And I keep reminding people that the distance from impossible to possible is shrinking. What was impossible, what is impossible today, tomorrow it'll be such a routine thing, you'll not even be talking about it. You take it for granted because it became so everybody's thing. So at that speed, when impossibles become possible, why don't you think about all the impossibles that we see to make it possible faster, so that everything proceed in that direction? So don't get scared about the impossible. Impossibles are the exciting things to conquer, because either your generation will make it possible or the next generation will make it possible. Why don't you take the pride? Our generation made it possible, and I did it make it possible. It's within your power. You don't have to be a powerful man in the sense we have lots of money, no. It's all creative power. It's a creativity what does everything. You and your computer, your internet, that's it. You can do anything you want. You can just design it and make it happen. That's the whole idea. Just think about the idea. Idea is the key to the whole thing. And then other steps will come forward. So that's the power I'm talking about. When to make all the impossible, or one impossible. Take one impossible for yourself and make it possible. Your job is done. Congratulations.
First of all, Professor Yunus, thank you very much for your speech. I would like to ask you, from your experience, do you think political resistance is an obstacle to the youth expressing our creative capacities? Or do you think political will can be a complement to changing the system, as you emphasized in your talk?
No amount of resistance can stop an idea to move forward. So no matter who does that, whether the state does it or a powerful group does it, If it is, the idea is powerful, it will pierce through all those resistance. Definitely, opinion building is a big force, because when people start believing in something, wants to raise their voice, that can overcome many of the obstacles that you see, many changes that you want to make. And today that became so much easier than used to be. Before, any kind of public opinion molding needed demonstration on the street, marching on the street, and so on. Today, internet makes it possible. It's all the Facebook and all the Twitters are so much powerful, communicating. You remain where you are, but your voice can be heard, you can be seen, and you can mobilize things so much faster, more efficiently. So that power of mobilizing opinion in support or against something, it becomes so much easier today if you want to make it happen. So technology, again, helps this very, very powerfully.
Can I just follow up?
Pardon me?
Can I follow up? Can I ask another question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So do you think that political will can change, and that can foster in creating the new system, as you put it?
Absolutely, yeah. Before political will, the point I was making, you have to dream of something, then the will comes. Will doesn't come in a vacuum. So you have to dream of something and make everybody participate in that dream. And that's what is known as will. Then the will come. The power of the dream motivates everybody. And people say, yes, why not? Why can't we do something like this? So that's why the imagination and dreaming is the most powerful way of imagination. You call it dream because it looks impossible. You won't call it dream if it is just a question of going from the spot 1 to spot 2. You take a car, you take a bus, you take a tram, you go there. So you don't call it a dream. You say there's a plan. Dream is something which looks impossible, but we want to make it possible. That's what the dream is all about. And then you put everything in your capacity, all the innovative, creative powers behind it, make it happen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Could we have the next question from you?
Good morning. Thanks for the sharing. I just have two questions. Firstly, right, you're talking about when you were doing your social business when you first started out with Grameen Bank, and how you went to see a banker and he said, no, I don't think it'll work, and you had to go and show him that it worked, right? Where did the initial capital come from? And secondly, right, social business, I understand, is still a form of business, so you still could feel there's a possibility that it will fail. So for example, in your case of where you provided solar power to the villagers, and you were talking about how initially everything was going very slowly and there wasn't much people who were willing to try and invest in this, right? So how do you know when you should give up and when you should press on or continue trying to push for the idea and create change?
Let me see. I understood the first point, but I didn't understand clearly. You talk about the investment part of the second question was?
Okay, I'm sorry. So I was just asking, firstly, to start a business, you need capital, right? So where would your capital come from? Because especially if your idea is very new, people might not be willing to invest in it. Okay, and secondly, my question was, how do you know when to give up on a social business venture?
Okay, yeah. The first one, the capital for Grameen Bank, I was narrating the story. First amount came from my pocket to give it to. And then I became a guarantor. So I didn't need any money. All I was doing, signing papers.
Yes.
So it's the bank's money going to the people, and I'm taking it, volunteer myself to collect the money and give it back to the bank. So that way I didn't need any money. Bank didn't need any additional capital because they already have the money. They just lend money to the rich. That money now goes to the poor, a small amount of money. So that didn't need any money. Then we created a bank. The bank equity from the borrower side came from their savings. Whatever little savings they had, they put it as a equity in the bank. And then they needed money the bank needed money to lend money. We already had this within the system, the loans that taken from the banks already in the hands of the people. We made an agreement with all the banks who are working with us, that the loans that you give will be considered as loan given to Grameen Bank. So we will be responsible for collecting it and give it back to you. And then we went to the central bank to borrow money from the central bank. As a bank, we can borrow from the central bank. So this is how we use the system to work for us. We didn't need any money from the pocket. And the second one, sometimes you start with an idea, it doesn't work, so you stop there. The way I have done, stop there and get busy with something else. You are starting another business. This business didn't work out. So you are not pushing, you're not saying it failed. Simply you are not proceeding with it anymore. In the meantime, 3 other businesses you are trying to do, and they are working and you continue. 1 year later, 2 years later, suddenly, this could have worked this way. Then pick it up again. And now you make a fresh start and start working again. So this is how simultaneously you do that. Not that every business finally works. There are some business was lying there for years and years, still you couldn't find a way to make it move. I continue to do that. It's possible. When you do so many different things, some of the things will not work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, due to time constraint, could you limit yourself to 1 question each? Yep. Could we have the gentleman on my left? Thanks.
Good morning, Professor Yunus and Professor Wong. I'm Nishant, a Year 6 student at Raffles Institution. In order to start a social business, you must first identify a social problem. As a boy, age 15, you went around the world and also lived in a country rife with social problems. So you were able to identify some problems. But for students like us living in a very protected environment in Singapore, it is rather hard for us to actually identify and analyze and see which social problem there is out there that we can actually solve with the limited powers that we have. So what suggestion do you have for students like us living in a very well-developed country? Thank you.
Well, every country has lots of social problems, no matter whether a rich country, poor country, it doesn't matter. Just sit down for a couple of hours or half an hour just to say, what are the problems that I see? If you don't see, open a newspaper, you'll see lots of problems. So pick up one and say, this is the one I'm going to solve. It's everywhere. You don't have to be expert on that. It's just a matter of 15 minutes or so. Problem number 1, problem number, or talk to your friends. What do you see as a problem in your neighborhood? Don't talk about the whole country. Just talk about your own neighborhood. What are the problems in my neighborhood? And just list them. And beyond my neighborhood, list them. And throughout the city, list them. You'll find a lot of them. No country is immune from problems. Otherwise, the whole world will be a heaven, or the country will be heaven. Country is not a heaven. It's made up of good things and bad things. So if you don't see problems, you call it bad things. What are the bad things we have in our country? List them. That's a problem. You want to solve that.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Hi, sir. I'm Raghav, and I'm a student of NUS from engineering. My question would be that when you talk about the Adidas shoes, you're talking about the realm of extreme affordability, right? Tapping into the bottom of the pyramid. And my question is that these type of innovations, in whatever technology they may be, they take time and resources. And my question to you is, how important is innovation versus the whole system itself? Like marketing the system and marketability, because it is as much a job of an engineering student as a business student when you go into these social ventures. So for someone who's looking to start up a social entrepreneurship business, what would you advise?
Well, everything, when you're for the first time you're designing something, it's all new. So you have to be innovative, you have to be creative to find a solution. And you start with a tentative solution, not the solution you've come up with first is the final solution. It's a kind of operational solution. You start with that. Then you keep on improving. Fine-tune it as it goes. It's a machine that you are building. So you keep on, you fix one, you create another problem. Try to fix that one, you create another problem. So you keep on working so that finally you handle all the problems in the system and you debug the system and it works now. Same way in real life operation. So you don't have the final solution when you started it. you started in with the provisional solutions and create those things. Every aspect is probably new aspect, but you learn from this thing which already at work. And I was giving in a kind of a joking way, talking about the conventional banks that I don't want to be. Said I learned from them and I turned it around, do the opposite. So that's a learning too. I didn't imitate it as it is. I just looked at it, how they do it. I thought, I'll go to the right direction if I oppose it. I turn it around, because my idea was they're going in this direction, so they made this way. So if I turn it around, I can go this way. That's what my destination is. So I kind of turned it around to make it the other way. So that's the way. You learn from the things from your opposite side by turning it around for your side. So that's the learning process. And then real thing will emerge when you start doing it. It's a whole thing is a trial and error. Experimentation again and again. Finally, you develop the prototype. Once the prototype is developed, it becomes easy to replicate, because now you have the whole system. And the first prototype would be a kind of very crude machine. But then we replicate it, it's an improved version. It's a more efficient version. At each time, the third replication will be much better. So each time you make it better and better. So start very small, so that whatever mistakes you have done is limited to only a small number of people. Then you replicate it, then improved it. When you improved it, then you can make it bigger. Then you continue and then replicate. That's it. That's the step that you take.
Prof. Wong,
Thank you.
Well, certainly innovation is critical for you to solve many problems, and certainly in social problem, because without innovations, you're just trying to solve the problem in the same old way, which has proven to be not successful. So definitely you need innovations. Now, but innovation may not be just technological innovation in the sense that you define it, but also it could be in design innovation. So for example, you're in engineering, so one of the key emerging idea now is about the concept of frugal engineering, where your goal is not to add more bells and whistles to the thing that you're designing, but how can you take the unnecessary cost out of the product that you design. And this means that actually there's a lot of high technology involved in designing very sort of a common low-cost product. So this is the design. And in other cases, it's about business model innovations, where you change the process of doing things, where you, like as Professor Yunus says, sometimes you reverse the assumption of what should be done. So just the example of healthcare, for example, one of the companies I've invested in is actually in China, and the goal is to see how we can provide care at home rather than having to go to hospital, and that for routine checkup and so on, that you actually don't go to a hospital and people come to your home. But that means you have to redesign the whole business process. How can you efficiently, for example, schedule nurses to visit the home, and also understand why people want to be at home and so on, and the value that you're creating by reversing the traditional assumption of how you provide healthcare. So that is innovation in the sense that you have to try something that had not been tried before, and there is risk. And as Professor Yunus said, you have to experiment. The idea is to find out what doesn't work fast, so that you can quickly home on to the sort of approach that are likely to be successful.
Okay. Thank you very much. Could we have NT on the right? Yeah.
Hi, good morning. My name is Antariksh. I'm a Year 5 student here in RI. Both panelists have talked about how in order to generate creative ideas, it is necessary to think outside the boundaries of the system, outside the boundaries of what the system imposes on us. But I think the nature of education is such that it is necessary to impose rules at times. For example, in economics, we learned that the sole purpose of a firm is to maximize profits, whereas social business has proven that this isn't always the case. So my question to both panelists is this: how do you think education can be developed to ensure that students can accommodate new ideas that are outside the boundaries of traditional thinking?
Well, today's education has to be redesigned for a simple reason of the technology, not because what question you raised. Always education has to adopt and adapt itself to the new things that are happening. It's not something static that these things are done and you can't change. All the changing things have to be reflected in the education system. So that's granted, that's always accepted in education system. But the fundamental issue that do we do the same old type of education system or redesign the education system today to not only update you at the end of the year, but update you every day. We always face this problem in education system where the professor is talking about some issues and he's talking about something he or she knew about or learned about, but in the meantime things have changed and the students just Google it in the morning and find out there's something completely different. So what the teacher is teaching is outdated already because students have more current information. So that's the kind of speed in which issues keep changing. So we need to redesign how to bring the rest of the world together in the classroom, rather than classroom remain a boundary defined by the curriculum and so on and so forth. So that's something that we have to open up and encourage students not only learn in the classroom but beyond the classroom and integrate in the discussions and because students are also more mature than they used to be because they are exposed to so many other things simultaneously. So that thing has to be reflected with the education system, and education system has to be by nature an enjoyable thing so that young people find it exciting world that you can not only learn or you want to contribute at the same time. Just because I'm young doesn't mean that I have less capacity than the one who is older. Today, young has more capacity than the old. There's a very strange situation because previously the idea was older is wiser. Now sometimes you get the feeling now younger is the wiser because they have more access to information than the previous generation. Although the technology is available to everybody else, but the younger is the one who can exploit the technology in much deeper way than the older generation who never had this exposure before. So he is very slow in using this technology for his purpose. So that way there's a kind of new environment created. That environment has to be now promoted in the way, in the direction that's moving. So that way this is an open forum rather than the lecture given classroom, that's what we learn. It's much more than that. Teacher is simply can be a guide to help students to learn.
Okay, if I just add to that, as an educator, I'm a strong believer in experiential learning. So unlike the common cliche that you should think out of the box, I strongly believe that you should actually get out of the box. You see, many situations, especially with understanding, solving social problems, you need to actually experience it. It is not just an intellectual exercise, it is emotional, social experience. You need to develop the empathy. So the previous question about how do we know what problem to solve? Well, you won't know what problem to solve until you really go and experience it. And then you realize what the real problem is. So our philosophy then, both in NUS where we teach, is to try to get students to involve in experiential learning. So we have a program and we want to teach students learn entrepreneurship. We actually get them to work as an intern for 1 whole year in a high-tech startup. So you know firsthand, close-hand, what actually happens. And then you experience it. And then you know what the problems are, you know what the opportunities are. So I believe that in your institution here as well, there's a strong emphasis of getting you out to the real world to experience it. And I believe that in the future, we need to move more in that directions of getting students to more experience the problem so that they can think creatively about how to solve the real problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm really sorry, but due to time constraint, we only can take 2 more questions. So let's start with the lady on my right and followed by the lady on my left. Yeah. So for those of you who still have burning questions to ask, you can approach either Professor Yunus or Professor Wong at the reception outside later. Okay.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Jenny. I'm an alumni from the school and I'm currently interning at Spring Singapore. My question is directed to both professors that currently I know a lot of people are saying that young people like us should go out there and take the challenge. And just now Professor Yunus also mentioned that young people like us can have access to information much better than the older generation. But I believe that even after 19 years of my life, with all the technology and connectivity that's around, we still lack many things. At a very basic level, we lack the capital, we lack life experiences, and we definitely lack perspectives. So do both professors really feel that it's actually even practical for young people like us to really embark on like social business? Thank you.
Yes, definitely. We are encouraging you to embark into social business. You don't have to start a business right away, but you can design a business. You can identify a problem. That's part of you. You can design a problem, business. It's a kind of mental exercise so that you can get ready for that kind of thing. But if you have a beautiful idea, beautiful design, somebody will seek you out that I would like to invest. Let's do it because you have the idea, we have the money, and let's proceed with that. And that's why we propose creation of social business funds. And that's one of the funds we are talking about creating in Singapore, encouraging Professor Wang to take the lead to create a social business fund so that you can come up or anybody can come up with a design which is exciting and it makes sense in a business way so that this fund can be made available so that you can go start doing that. There's no reason why you cannot get involved just because you are in school. School doesn't stop you thinking. It helps you thinking. So use your ability to think and consult with your friends and be activist and do it. It's a business not for making money for yourself. It's a business to solve the problem. So it's a very exciting thing. You can talk about it in your school. You talk about among your friends. And they got excited too. Then started creating other ideas. And that creates a kind of a chain reaction. And that's a very important thing to do.
Well, I believe that many social business ideas, indeed many startup ideas, you can actually start doing it on a small scale, experiment, prove the validity of your assumptions, develop prototype, has a validation of initial markets. So the seed capital that you need to do this typically is not very large. And if you are really passionate about it, you ought to be able to at least contribute part of that yourself or through your team members. But I believe that in the system, there are also various support programs. In NUS, for example, one of the ways we support our students is that we actually give out something like the Ashoka Fellows kind of grant, where we have called for proposal. If you have a really interesting idea, we can give you anything from $1,000 to $10,000 for you to actually work on developing, testing, experimenting with your idea until you develop to a point where you're confident that this can be something you can scale. And at that point, this is where what Professor Yunus said, we will then need to find the social business fund that will hopefully invest in helping you to scale the business idea. I believe right now there are, under various government programs in Spring, for example, you're in Spring, right? They already have a scheme of up to 50,000 for people who start the normal for-profit company. And I believe the government is looking into now through the Ministry of Community and Youth scheme to introduce a similar kind of funding scheme that may help you to get this seed fund to take it to the next stage. So I believe that actually the resources are there, but more importantly, you yourself must have the passion to drive it. And as Professor Yunus says, very often the test of a great viable social business idea that it can actually eventually be self-sustainable. So you should not always depending on handout as well, that it is just an initial capital to get you started. If you find that you need to continually get grant from government, then it's probably not a viable social business. Last point I would add is that you want to draw on all the resources you can. Because one of the hallmark of an entrepreneur is to be able to leverage the resources that you do not have. And one of the key ways is to bring in people with experience who can serve as mentor, advisors to help you, or to develop partnership with the company the way that Professor Yunus had got the Danone to partner them to develop this nutritious food product. So you have to think about not just what money, what resources I have, but how can I leverage the people who have these resources.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next question, please.
Good morning, professors. And my name is Yu. I'm from Vietnam, and now I'm studying in NUS Year 3. And my question, what did you have as the social entrepreneur? What did you have to sacrifice? Because in my situation, because my family depends solely, financially on me after my graduation. But I really want to be the social entrepreneur and to contribute to my Vietnam. And I'm very conflict right now. I don't know, I'm stuck, and I don't know, I should work or I should, stick to my idea after I graduate. So could I ask for your advice?
Yeah, your passion should drive you. That's the basic thing. You do what you feel important and what you enjoy doing. And you have to make compromises with other things. Not that you abandon everything, but you don't do as much as you are supposed to do probably, but because you are so much driven by your passion to do something what is important for you. And it will depend completely on your circumstances. I cannot guide you without knowing what exact situation that is. Sometimes you think it's an obligation, but nobody felt that you really have that obligation. You are the only one who are feeling that obligation. So if you openly discuss with others, they said, yeah, go right ahead, no problem. So it's a question of presenting to others, those to whom you think you are obligated, family obligations, obligation to your other sections of your life. In my case, I didn't have that problem, that what you said about the family obligation. I didn't have to worry about my family and so on, so I could proceed whatever I did. Family means my broader family, not my wife and children and so on. They always with me, so we had no problem with them. But since I didn't have to take care of my brothers, sisters, and everybody else, and they are on their own, so I didn't have to worry about that. So that way, I never felt any kind of pull from behind. I could continue what I want to do, whether I want to do this or that is my decision. But in your case, it may be different. But as I said, you can open it up and discuss with others. Good luck.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Maybe I just add one point that if you have read Professor Yunus' books about the principle of social business, a viable social business must be able to provide all its employees a salary that is at the market rate. It shouldn't be that you have to sacrifice with no salary at all, because that shows you that what you're doing is not viable. So the challenge is for you to really develop a viable social business that pay all its employees fair wages. And if you are able to do that, then actually, it's no different if you are working in a normal for-profit company or working in a social business. The only difference is that this social business is achieving a social impact that you have passion for, whereas in the other corporate job, you're just doing it because you want the salary. So the challenge is to come up with innovations that allow you to develop such a viable social business. A social business should not be one where you have to sacrifice with no salary.
Thanks for your advice. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for all your questions. I hope that you have managed to learn and to come to a deeper understanding of social businesses, and one day maybe even start a social business yourself. Now, let us put our hands together for a round of applause for both professors.
Thank you, Professor Yunus and Professor Wong. May I request that you remain on stage? I would now like to invite Mrs. Lim Lai Ching and Year 2 student Yang Gan to present a token of appreciation to Professor Yunus. In the artwork by Yang Gan, the grasshopper is the essence of tenacity, durability, and courageous endeavor. Found in tropical rainforests, 2 deserts, it can survive the most extreme temperatures. In unfavorable predatory environments, a young grasshopper is quick to react, releasing outbursts of energy and can jump up to 20 times its body length to safety. This artwork is a collage of buttons, screws, forks, toothbrushes, and balloon whisks, daily household items which we see and touch every day. It is an art form of novelty and yet familiarity. It represents humility and yet reminds us how simple items can be assembled through ideas and imagination into an enterprise.
Thank you, Professor Yunus and Yang Gan. Mrs. Lim, please remain on stage.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to invite Mrs. Lim Lai Ching to present a token of appreciation to Professor Wong. Thank you, Professor Wong and Ms. Lim.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We have come to the end of the public lecture. We would like to invite all guests to join us for a reception at the back of the Performing Arts Centre. May I request that all guests remain seated while Guest of Honour proceeds to the reception first.
We would now like to invite you for the reception at the back of this auditorium. Thank you and have a good day.